A letter written in the name of all the Risale-i Nur students in Sparta to offer congratulations for Ramadan, which has been amended in 13 sections. In his name be he glorified, and there is nothing but it glorifies him with praise. Our revered Master, who through the effulgence of the Qur'an and truths of the Risale-i Nur and aspirations of his loyal students weeps tears of blood for the well-being of the Islamic world in this world and the next, who in these stormy days of the end of time is beset with more woes and ills than Job, peace be upon him, and through the light of the Qur'an, the proofs of the Risale-i Nur and efforts of his students' words to cure the ills of Islamic world, like Luqman the Wise, and has brought with 33 verses of the Qur'an and the wondrous predictions of Imam Ali and Gawsul Azam that the Risale-i Nur with its different parts is truth and reality, who, although he is himself ill and elderly and weak and in a piteous condition, more than anyone sacrifices his life for the world of Islam and responds to those wrong him with the truths of Qur'an and proofs of the Risale-i Nur, and through the loyalty of the Risale-i Nur students with prayers and good works, who, together with his students, was sent to prison because one of his important works, the Supreme Sign, was printed, and through the guidance of the Qur'an and teachings of the Risale-i Nur and enthusiasm of his students, turned to prison in a school of Joseph and place of learning, and was the cause of all the ignorant among us learning to read the whole Qur'an, and despite being elderly and weak, through the sacred strength of the Qur'an and solace of the Risale-i Nur and endurance of his brothers, took on himself the loads of all of us, and through the fruits of belief and defense speeches which he wrote, the miraculousness of the Qur'an of miraculous exposition and the powerful proofs of the Risale-i Nur and sincerity of his students, with divine permission, had the prison door opened and won our acquittals and made that day a festival for us and for the Islamic world, and proving that in truth the Risale-i Nur is light upon light, won the right for it to be read and written out freely till the end of time, who has brought with the sacred sustenance of the Qur'an of mighty stature and other worldly food of the Risale-i Nur an appetite of its students that the world of Islam has need for the Risale-i Nur as it does for water and air, and that thousands of those who have read these treatises and written them out have entered the grave in a state of belief and has never defeated or embarrassed the students who follow him, and through the heavenly teachings of the Qur'an, the principles of the Risale-i Nur, the intelligence of its students, and the 10th and 11th topics of the fruits of belief, and its flowers quenches the fires of separation that night and day sear our hearts, like the water of life and wine of Kevsar, filling them with joy and happiness, who, in accordance with the certain promises and threats of the Qur'an of mighty stature, and the certain discoveries of the Risale-i Nur, and the observations of its late students, and those among them who divine the happenings of the grave, has for the believers saved death, the thing most feared by all the world, from being eternal annihilation, and transformed it into a discharge from duties, and shown that for the unbelievers and dissemblers it is eternal annihilation, has brought in accordance with the certain news of the Qur'an of miraculous exposition, confirmed both by the 1,000 miracles of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and its 40 aspects of miraculousness, and endorsed by the proofs of the Risale-i Nur, which proceeds from the Qur'an, which have defeated even its most obdurate enemies, and are submitted to by the Risale-i Nur students, and are corroborated to by many signs, experiences, and convictions that the terrifying, cold, dark, and narrow grave is for the believers a pit of paradise and a door unto the gardens of paradise, while for the disbelievers and dissembling atheists is a pit of hell full of snakes and scorpions, and has made the angels called Munkar and Nakir, who will enter there, familiar companions for the people of truth, and those who have taken the way of reality, and included the Risale-i Nur students among students of the religious sciences, and discovered on the death of the late heroic martyr Hafiz Ali that they reply to the questions of Munkar and Nakir with the Risale-i Nur, and who beseeches divine mercy that those of us who are still living will also reply with the Risale-i Nur, who, through demonstrating an aspect of miraculousness pertaining to each of the 40 levels of the Qur'an of mighty stature, and through it being the pure eternal words of God, and through the words the miraculousness of the Qur'an, and the 8 symbols from the Risale-i Nur, and the extraordinary efforts of the heroic brothers and students of the Risale-i Nur, like the chief rider of the rose factory, and through Husrev, one of the heroic scribes of the Risale-i Nur, being commanded to write, although no one since the time of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, had been able to write it in such miraculous fashion, its being written like the Qur'an inscribed on the preserved tablet, has proved in beautiful and brilliant fashion, never before seen or heard, that the Qur'an of mighty stature is the true word of God and the greatest of all the revealed books, and that there are thousands of Surah al-Fatihas within one Surah al-Fatiha, and thousands of Surah al-Ihlas's within one Surah al-Ihlas, and that its letters yield 10, 100, 1,000, and thousands of merits and good deeds. Who has brought through the Qur'an of miraculous exposition demonstrating its miraculousness for 1,300 years, and halting those who oppose it, and through the proofs of the Risale-i Nur that are so clear as to be almost visible, and through the diamond pens of the Risale-i Nur students, that the 25th word and its addenda, which have challenged the world and silenced even the most obdurate, are miracles of the Qur'an in 40 aspects. Who has brought in the treatise from the Risale-i Nur called The Miracles of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, thousands of miracles showing that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was a true messenger, the Lord of all the 24,000 prophets, and the most virtuous of them, and through the Qur'an of mighty stature, proclaiming to the universe that God's noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, was sent as a mercy to all the worlds, and the Risale-i Nur demonstrating from beginning to end that he was a mercy to all the worlds, and showing even to the blind that the messenger's deeds and conduct are the finest and best example to be followed in the world, and through the testimony of calamities being lifted when the Risale-i Nur is disseminated in Anatolia and other countries, and disasters occurring when it is silenced, and through the firm and steadfast attachment to their work of the Risale-i Nur students, despite the extremely difficult circumstances, has shown how profitable it is to follow the practices of that being, peace and blessings be upon him, and that to follow a single of his practices at this time gains the reward of 100 martyrs, and has brought absolutely certainly that for 20 years the Risale-i Nur has repulsed the calamities and disasters that would otherwise have been visited on Anatolia, the same as alms giving repulsed disaster. Now, since the Risale-i Nur's acquittal has filled with joy foremost our beloved master, then us impotent, faulty students, then the Islamic world, and occasioned a second festival, we congratulate you on this great festival of yours, and offering our congratulations for Ramadan and the night of power, the third festival, we beseech Almighty God we shall see many more, and imploring forgiveness for our faults and the fault among us, we send the greetings of all here and kiss your blessed hands and beseech your prayers, O our Master. The Risale-i Nur students in Sparta and its environs. To modestly reject this letter, which is 100 times greater than my due, would be ingratitude and an insult to the favorable opinions of all the students, while to accept it exactly as it is would tell of pride, egotism, and conceit. Therefore, adding 13 sections, I am sending you a copy of this long letter written by the Risale-i Nur's scribe in everyone's name, both by way of thanks and to be saved from pride and ingratitude. It may be added at the end of the 11th topic with the title, A Letter from the Risale-i Nur Students of Sparta and its Environs. Although I have amended the letter in this way, twice a pigeon alighted at my window. It was going to enter, but saw Ceylan's head and did not. Several minutes later, another alighted in exactly the same way. It too saw the scribe's head and did not come inside. I said, most probably these are bearers of good news like the sparrow and Quddus bird before. Or perhaps because we have written this letter like numerous other secret letters, they came to congratulate us on amending the auspicious letter in this way. Said Nursi. The Staff of Moses, Part 2, a conclusive proof of God. This consists of 11 proofs of the truth of belief. This treatise was very much appreciated by the Ankara Committee of Experts, and it also contributed significantly to our acquittal. It is an extremely decisive and powerful proof of the greatest clarity which has broken the back of absolute disbelief. Said Nursi. The first proof, the supreme sign. The observations of a traveler questioning the universe concerning his maker. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. The seven heavens and the earth, and all that is in them extol and glorify Him, and there is nothing but it glorifies Him with praise, but you understand not their glorifying. Indeed, He is most forbearing, most forgiving. Since this sublime verse, like many other Qur'anic verses, mentions first the heavens, that brilliant page proclaiming God's unity, gazed on at all times, and by all men with wonder and joy, in its pronouncement of the creator of this cosmos, let us too begin with a mention of the heavens. Every voyager who comes to the hospice and the realm of this world opens his eyes and wonders who is the master of this fine hospice, which resembles a most generous banquet, a most ingenious exhibition, a most impressive camp and training ground, a most amazing and wondrous place of recreation, a most profound and wise place of instruction. He asks himself too, who is the author of this great book, and who is the monarch of this lofty realm. There first presents itself to him the beautiful face of the heavens, inscribed with the gilt lettering of the stars. That face calls him, saying, "Look at me, and I shall guide you to what you seek." He looks then and sees a manifestation of divinity performing various tasks in the heavens. It holds aloft in the heavens, without any supporting pillar, hundreds of thousands of heavenly bodies, some of which are 1,000 times heavier than the earth, and revolve 70 times faster than a cannonball. It causes them to move in harmony and swiftly without colliding with each other. It causes innumerable lamps to burn constantly, without the use of any oil. It disposes of these great masses without any disturbance or disorder. It sets sun and moon to work at their respective tasks, without those great bodies ever rebelling. It administers within infinite space, the magnitude of which cannot be measured in figures should they stretch from pole to pole, all that exists at the same time, with the same strength, in the same fashion, manner, and mold. Without the least deficiency, it reduces to submissive obedience to its law all the aggressive powers inherent in those bodies. It cleanses and lustrates the face of the heavens, removing all the sweepings and refuse of that vast assembly. It causes those bodies to maneuver like a disciplined army, and then, making the earth revolve, it shows the heavens each night and each year in a different form, like a cinema screen displaying true and imaginative scenes to the audience of creation. There is within this dominical activity a truth consisting of subjugation, administration, revolution, ordering, cleansing, and employment. This truth, with its grandeur and comprehensiveness bears witness to the necessary existence and unity of the creature of the heavens, and testifies to that existence being more manifest than that of the heavens. Hence, it was said in the first degree of the first station, there is no God but God, the necessary being, to whose necessary existence in unity the heavens and all they contain testify, through the testimony of the sublimity of the comprehensiveness of the truth of subjugation, administration, revelation, ordering, cleansing, and employment, a truth vast and perfect and to be observed. Then that wondrous place of gathering known as space or the atmosphere begins thunderously to proclaim to that traveler come as a guest to the world, look at me. You can discover and find through me the object of your search, the one who sent you here. The traveler looks at the sore but kind face of the atmosphere, and listening to the awesome but joyous thunderclaps perceives the following. The clouds suspended between the sky and the earth water the garden of the world in the most wise and merciful fashion, furnish the inhabitants of the earth with the water of life, modify the natural heat of life, and hasten to bestow aid wherever it is needed. In addition to fulfilling these and other duties, the vast clouds, capable of filling the heavens, sometimes hide themselves, with their parts retiring to rest, so that not a trace can be seen, just like a well-disciplined army showing and hiding itself in accordance with sudden orders. Then, the very instant the command is given to pour down rain, the clouds gather in 1 hour, or rather in a few minutes. They fill the sky and await further orders from their commander. Next, the traveler looks at the wind in the atmosphere and sees that the air is employed wisely and generously in such numerous tasks that it is as if each of the inanimate atoms of that unconscious air were hearing and noting the orders coming from that monarch of the universe. Without neglecting a single one of them, it performs them in ordered fashion and through the power of the monarch. Thereby, it gives breath to all beings and conveys to all living things the heat, light, and electricity they need, and transmits sound, as well as aiding in the pollination of plants. The traveler then looks at the rain and sees that within those delicate, glistening seaweed drops, sent from a hidden treasury of mercy, there are so many compassionate gifts and functions contained that it is as if mercy itself were assuming shape and flowing forth from the dominical treasury in the form of drops. It is for this reason that rain has been called mercy. Next, the traveler looks at the lightning and listens to the thunder and sees that both of these two are employed in wondrous tasks. Then, taking his eyes off this, he looks to his own intellect and says, the inanimate, lifeless cloud that resembles carded cotton has of course no knowledge of us. When it comes to our aid, it is not because it takes pity on us. It cannot appear and disappear without receiving orders. Rather, it acts in accordance with the orders of a most powerful and compassionate commander. First, it disappears without leaving a trace, then suddenly reappears in order to begin its work. By the command and power of a most active and exalted, a most magnificent and splendid monarch, it fills and then empties the atmosphere. Inscribing the sky with wisdom and erasing the pattern, it makes of the sky a tablet of effacement and affirmation, a depiction of the gathering and the resurrection. By the contriving of a most generous and bountiful and most munificent and solicitous sustainer, a ruler who regulates and disposes, it mounts the winds, and taking with its treasuries of rain, each as heavy as a mountain, hastens to the aid of the needy. It is as if it were weeping over them in pity, with its tears causing the flowers to smile, tempering the heat of the sun, spraying gardens with water, and washing and cleansing the face of the earth. That wandering traveler then tells his own intellect. These hundreds of thousands of wise, merciful, and ingenious tasks and acts of generosity and mercy that arise from the veil and outer form of this inanimate, lifeless, unconscious, volatile, unstable, stormy, unsettled, and inconstant air clearly established that this diligent wind, this tireless servant, never acts of itself, but rather in accordance with the orders of a most powerful and knowing, a most wise and generous commander. It is as if each particle were aware of every single task, like a soldier understanding and hearkening to every order of its commander, for it hears and obeys every dominical command that courses through the air. It aids all animals to breathe and to live, all plants to pollinate and grow, and cultivates all the matter necessary for their survival. It directs and administers the clouds, makes possible the voyaging of sailing ships, and enables sounds to be conveyed, particularly by means of wireless, telephone, telegraph, and radio, as well as numerous other universal functions. Now, these atoms, each composed of two such simple materials as hydrogen and oxygen, and each resembling the other, exist in hundreds of thousands of different fashions all over the globe. I conclude, therefore, that they are being employed and set to work in the utmost orderliness by a hand of wisdom. As the verse makes clear, and the disposition of the winds and the clouds held in disciplined order between the heavens and the earth. The one who through the disposition of the winds employs them in countless dominical functions, who through the ordering of the clouds uses them in infinite tasks of mercy, and who creates the air in this fashion, such a one can only be the possessor of necessary existence, the one empowered over all things, and knowledgeable of all things, the sustainer endowed with glory and generosity. This is the conclusion our traveler now draws. Then he looks at the rain and sees that within it are contained benefits as numerous as the raindrops, and dominical manifestations as multiple as the particles of rain, and instances of wisdom as plentiful as its atoms. Those sweet, delicate, and blessed drops are moreover created in so beautiful and ordered a fashion that particularly the rain sent in the summertime is dispatched and caused to fall with such balance and regularity that not even stormy winds that cause large objects to collide can destroy its equilibrium and order. The drops do not collide with each other or merge in such fashion as to become harmful masses of water. Water, composed of two simple elements like hydrogen and oxygen, is employed in hundreds of thousands of otherwise purposeful tasks and arts, particularly in animate beings, although it is itself inanimate and unconscious. Rain, which is then the very embodiment of divine mercy, can only be manufactured in the unseen treasury of mercy of one most compassionate and merciful, and on its descent expounds in physical form the verse. And he it is who sends down rain after men have despaired, and thus breathes out his mercy. The traveler next listens to the thunder and watches the lightning. He understands that these two wondrous events in the atmosphere are like a material demonstration of the verse. The thunder glorifies his praise. The brilliance of his lightning almost robs them of their sight. They also announce the coming of rain and thus give glad tidings to the needy. Yes, this sudden utterance of a miraculous sound by the atmosphere, the filling of the dark sky with the flash and fire of lightning, the setting alight of the clouds that resemble mountains of cotton, or pipes bursting with water and snow, these and similar phenomena are like a blow struck on the head of the negligent man whose gaze is directed down at the earth. They tell him, "Lift up your head, look at the miraculous deeds of the most active and powerful being who wishes to make himself known. In the same way that you are not left to your own devices, so too, these phenomena and events have a master and a purpose. Each of them is caused to fulfill a particular task, and each is employed by a most wise disposer. The wandering traveler hears then the lofty and manifest testimony to the truth that is composed of the disposition of the winds, the descent of the rains, and the administration of the events of the atmosphere, and says, I believe in God. That which was stated in the second degree of the first station expresses the observations of the traveler concerning the atmosphere. There is no God but God, the necessary being, to whose necessary existence in unity the atmosphere and all it contains testifies, through the testimony of the sublimity of the comprehensiveness of the truth, of subjugation, disposal, causing to descend, and regulation, a truth vast and perfect and to be observed. Next, the globe addresses the thoughtful traveler, now growing accustomed to his reflective journey. Why are you wandering through the heavens, through space and the sky? Come, I will make known to you what you are seeking. Look at the functions that I perform and read my pages. He looks and sees that the globe, like an ecstatic Mevlevi dervish with its twofold motion, is tracing out around the field of the supreme gathering a circle that determines the succession of days, years, and seasons. It is a most magnificent dominical ship loaded with the hundreds of thousands of different forms of food and equipment needed for all animate beings, floating with the utmost equilibrium in the ocean of space, encircling the sun. He then looks at the pages of the earth and sees that each page of each of its chapters proclaims the sustainer of the earth in thousands of verses. Being unable to read the whole of it, he looks at the page dealing with the creation and deployments of animate beings in the spring and observes the following. The forms of the countless members of hundreds of thousands of species emerge in the utmost precision from a simple material and are then nurtured in most merciful fashion. Then, in miraculous manner, wings are given to some of the seeds they take to flight and are thus dispersed. They are most effectively distributed, most carefully fed and nurtured. Countless tasty and delicious forms of food in the most merciful and tender fashion are brought forth from dry clay and from roots, seeds, and drops of liquids that differ little among each other. Every spring, 100,000 kinds of food and equipment are loaded on it from an unseen treasury as if onto a railway wagon and are dispatched in utmost orderliness to animate beings. The sending to infants of canned milk in those food packages and pumps of sugared milk in the form of their mothers' affectionate breasts is in particular such an instance of solicitousness, mercy, and wisdom that it immediately establishes itself as a most tender manifestation of the mercy and generosity of the merciful and compassionate one. In short, this living page of spring displays 100,000 examples and samples of the supreme gathering and is a tangible demonstration of this verse. So, look to the signs of God's mercy, how He gives life to the earth after its death, for verily it is who gives life to the dead, and He has power over all things. Moreover, this verse may be said to express in miraculous fashion the meanings of the page that is spring. The traveler thus understood that the earth proclaims through all its pages, in fashion proportionate to their size, there is no God but He. In expression of the meaning beheld by the traveler through the believed testimony of one of the 20 aspects of a single page out of the more than 20 pages of the globe, it was said in the third degree of the first station. There is no God but God, the necessary being, to whose necessary existence in unity the earth with all that is in it and upon it testifies, through the testimony of the sublimity of the comprehensiveness of the truth of subjugation, disposition, nurturing, opening, distribution of seeds, protection, administration, the giving of life to all animate beings, compassion and mercy universal and general, a truth vast and perfect and to be observed.